See, I think the key drivers, and this question will be variously interpreted by different people, but to my mind, the key drivers have always been and will always be time and quality. Quality is something that you can't negotiate, but time, to my mind, again has a little bit of a different connotation, because time at a different level also impacts the environment. And environment then determines what the key drivers are for any organization at that moment. So today, for example, the three top things that would come to my mind, one is the uncertain environment that we're going through, and that is true at a global level. So how is the US behaving, how is Europe behaving, what's happening in Japan, what's happening in Southeast, all these impact the business environment in some way, and they would tend to determine the drivers for an individual organization. However severely or not so severely, that depends on how insulated the organization is from the rest of the world. But that is a determining driver today. The second big thing that I think is happening across at least the country is the changing parameters or the demographics of the talent pool, and we have to take cognizance of that. We need to understand that there is a Gen X, Gen Y divide. We need to train our people in understanding the attitude, within quotes, that the younger generation brings to at least to the interview table, be able to identify with what are the things that they're looking at, and therefore take the right calls. The third thing that I think is increasingly becoming a driver is the global nature of any business that is apparent today. So for example, if you're not operating in a different country, it is very likely that you'll be interacting with a person who lives in another country, or that the business that you need to carry out will be determined by something that someone does in another country, and so on. So that global perspective and understanding of what makes the world go round, I think, is another key driver of talent acquisition. Now, having said this, I also believe that every organization, so for example, take a Steel Authority of India, where I started my career, that organization would have a different drivers facing it in terms of talent acquisition than, let's say, a TCS or a Reliance or an SRF that I work for today. So what drives these drivers, if I was to use that phrase, is the way that the organization sees its own future. What is the strategy that it has evolved to reach there, and what are the things that it has to do in the next, let's say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years to be able to get where it wants to get. So the drivers are now typical to every organization. And however hard you may try, and however hard you may believe that the global landscape and everything impacts, or rather keeps the drivers the same, it actually does not. So what you need to make sure is that you identify the right drivers, and more often than not, we live in a world of disruptive technology. So something's going to happen tomorrow that we don't know of today, and we need to prepare ourselves for that. So that determines the drivers. So it's a question of build or buy. And every organization will have to find the right balance in terms of building or buying talent that will serve its purpose in the times to come, and specifically with a view to the strategy or the place where the organization sees itself in the 5-year time frame or the 10-year time frame or whatever.